Today we're going to talk about this book called Ghost. It's actually the shortest book that I've done so far. It's about 180 pages, so it's just under 200. And at first I thought, like, okay, since this is a small book, it's probably going to be like elementary school age. But actually, I would place this book anywhere between like 4th to 9th grade, just because like if you have some advanced readers in elementary school, obviously the size of the book and like the wording and language of the book are definitely suitable for elementary school kids. There's no like super bad language in it or anything. Like some of the kids joke around with each other and kind of call each other names and stuff. But one website that I like to go to for any book to check stuff is commonsense.org. And so that one's kind of like, it'll tell you like language, it'll tell you like things like content, violence, any of that stuff. And then it'll actually tell you like overall themes and messages and like why you should still want to read the book. Like they don't discount like books that have bad language and say don't read them. They just warn you and say, hey, these are things that you should be looking out for. So Ghost is a good one for like anybody really. Like I'm an adult and I still get messages out of this. It's still very educational for adults. And it's a quick read. I only started reading this yesterday in the morning and I finished it by like 4 o'clock. So I just read it all in one read because it was really good. What attracted me initially to this book is a lot of people recommended it whenever I was looking for books of diversity to add to my classroom. And also, this is a National Book Award finalist, so it was so good that it was nominated for that. The author, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. His name is Jason Reynolds. And what it says in the back is that he's had books that have been made Coretta Scott King author honor books, which if you don't know about those are like books that are deemed like really, really awesome reads by either people of color or that are about people of color. So that's really cool. And then he also had a Kirkus Prize and a Time Magazine Best Book of the Year. So like overall, he's a really awesome author. And this book, Ghost, is the first of a series of 4 books, which is called the Track series. And the reason why it's called the Track series is because all of these books are about kids who absolutely love running and have talent for running. So if you do know me, you know that I love running as well. So this is another reason why I was attracted to this book, is because I wanted to read this kid's story on his love of running and how he kind of got himself onto this awesome track team. So, Ghost is called that because this is this kid's nickname. So, an overview of this book is that there's this kid who his actual name is Castle, but he goes by the nickname Ghost. 1, because he doesn't like his name. He doesn't like to be called Castle. And then 2, because at the beginning, which you'll see when I read chapter 1, he has a pretty intense story starting out early in his life that's made him feel like that he's kind of like not sure of who he is as a person or what he wants in life, and he knows that he has fears because the things that happened to him early in his life made him fearful of certain things and of who he feels like he is as a person because he survived those things. So he claims that he got the nickname Ghost because of this event where he was found by somebody who said that it was like seeing a ghost. So I'm going to read the first 2 chapters because I feel like the first chapter is like really, really short, and then the second chapter gives more context so that overall like you get a better idea of this book, which by the time you get to chapter 2, it's already been 28 pages, so that's already like a good amount of the book already. All right, so Ghost, and I love the like the little dedication page. It says to the runners, which I thought was really cool because a lot of my kids are really interested in running or track, so I think this will be really good for them to add to my classroom. And of course, I love running too. All right, chapter 1. World records. Check this out. This dude named Andrew Dahl holds the world record for blowing up the most balloons. With his nose. Yeah, that's true. Not sure how he found out that was some kind of special talent, and I can't even imagine how much snot be in those balloons, but hey, it's a thing. And Andrew's the best at it. There's also this lady named Charlotte Lee who holds the record for owning the most rubber ducks. No lie. Here's what's weird about that. Why would you even want one rubber duck, let alone 5,631? I mean, come on. And me? Well, I probably hold the world record for knowing the most about world records. That, and for eating the most sunflower seeds. Let me guess. Sunflower seeds. Mr. Charles practically shouts from behind the counter of what he calls his country store, even though we live in a city. Mr. Charles, who by the way, looks just like James Brown if James Brown were white, has been ringing me up for sunflower seeds 5 days a week for about, let me think, since 4th grade, which is when Ma took the hospital job. So for about 3 years now. He's also hard of hearing, which when my mom used to say this, I would always thought she was saying harder hearing, which made no sense at all to me. I don't know why she didn't just say almost deaf. Maybe because hard of hearing is more like hospital talk, which was probably rubbing off on her. But yeah, Mr. Charles can barely hear a thing, which is why he's always yelling at everybody and everybody's always yelling at him. His store is a straight up scream fest, not to mention this extra sound effects from the loud TV he keeps behind the counter. Cowboy movies on repeat. Mr. Charles is also the guy who gave me this book, Guinness World Records, which is where I found out about Andrew Dahl and Charlotte Lee. He tells me I can set a record one day, a real record, be one of the world's greatest somethings. Maybe. But I know one thing. Mr. Charles has to hold the record for saying, let me guess, sunflower seeds, because he says that every single time I come in, which means I probably also hold the record for responding loudly the same exact way. Let me guess, $1. That's my comeback. Said it a gazillion times. Then I slap a buck in the palm of his wrinkly hand, and he puts the bag of seeds in mine. After that, I continue on my slow motion journey, pausing again only when I get to the bus stop. But this bus stop ain't just any bus stop. It's the one that's directly across the street from the gym. I just sit there with the other people waiting for the bus, except I'm never actually waiting for it. The bus gets you home fast, and I don't want that. I just go there to look at the people working out. See, the gym across the street has this big window, like this whole wall is a window, and they have those machines that make you feel like you're walking up steps, and so everybody just be facing the bus stop, looking all crazy like they're about to pass out. And trust me, there ain't nothing funnier than that. So I check it out for a little while like it's some kind of movie. The About to Pass Out Show, starring Stair-Stepper Person 1 through 10. I know this all probably sounds kind of weird, maybe even creepy, but it's something to do when you're bored. Best part about sitting there is tearing into my sunflower seeds like they're theater popcorn. About the sunflower seeds, I used to just put a whole bunch of them in my mouth at the same time, suck all the salt off, then spit them out machine gun style. I could have probably set a world record in that too, but now I've matured. Now I take my time, moving them around, positioning them for the perfect bite to pop open the shell, then carefully separating the seeds from it with my tongue, and then, this is the hard part, keeping the little seeds safe in the space between my teeth and tongue. I spit the shells out. And finally, after all that, I chew the seed up. I'm like a master at it, even though, honestly, sunflower seeds don't taste like nothing. I'm not even sure they're really worth all the hassle, but I like the process anyway. My dad used to eat sunflower seeds too. That's where I get it from. But he used to chew the whole thing up. The shells, the seeds, everything. Just devour them like some kind of beast. When I was really young, I used to ask him if a sunflower was going to grow inside him since he ate the seeds so much. He was always watching some kind of game, like football or basketball, and he'd turn to me for just a second, and long enough to not miss a play, say, "Sunflowers are all up in me, kid." Then he'd shake the seeds in his palm like dice, before throwing another bunch in his grill to chomp down on. But let me tell you, my dad wasn't lying. Wasn't no sunflowers growing in him. Couldn't have been. I don't know a whole lot about sunflowers, but I know they're pretty and girls like them. And I know the word sunflower is made up of 2 good words, and that man ain't got 2 good words in him, or anything that a girl would like, because girls don't like men who try to shoot them and their son. That's the kind of man he was. It was 3 years ago when my dad lost it, when the liquor made him meaner than he'd ever been. Every other night he would become a different person. like he'd morph into something crazy. But this one night, my mother decided to finally fight back. This one night, everything went worse. I had my head sandwiched between my mattress and my pillow, something I got used to doing whenever they were going at it, when my mom crashed into my bedroom. "We gotta go," she said, yanking the covers off the bed. And when I didn't move fast enough, she yelled, "Come on!" Next thing I knew, she was dragging me down the hallway, my feet tripping over themselves. And that's when I looked back and saw him, my dad, staggering from the bedroom, his lips bloody, a pistol in his hand. "Don't make me do this, Terry," he angry begged, but my mom kept rolling. The sound of the gun cocking, the sound of the door unlocking, and as soon as she swung the door open, my dad fired a shot. He was shooting at us. My dad was actually shooting at us, his wife, and his boy. I didn't look to see what he hit, mainly because I was scared it was going to be me or Ma. The sound was big and sharp enough to make me feel like my brain was going to pop in my head, enough to make my heart hiccup. But the craziest thing was, I felt like the shot, loudest sound I had ever heard, made my legs move even faster. I don't know if that's possible, but that's definitely what it seemed like. My mom and I kept running, down the staircase, into the street, breaking into the darkness with death chasing behind us. We ran and ran and ran, until finally we came up on Mr. Charles's store, which, luckily for us, stays open 24/7. Mr. Charles took one look at me and my mom, out of breath, crying, barefoot in our pajamas, and hid us in his storage room while he called the cops. We stayed there all night. I haven't seen my dad since. Mom said the cops said that whenever they got to the house, he was sitting outside on the steps, shirtless with the pistol beside him, guzzling beer, eating sunflower seeds, waiting. Like he wanted to get caught. Like it was no big deal. They gave him 10 years in prison, and to be honest, I don't know if I'm happy about that or not. Sometimes I wish he would have gotten forever in jail. Other times I wish he was home on the couch, watching the game, shaking seeds in his hand. Either way, one thing is for sure. That was the night I learned how to run. So when I was done sitting at the bus stop in front of the gym and came across all those kids on the track at park practicing, I had to see what was going on. Because running ain't nothing I ever had to practice. It's just something I knew how to do. Alright, so that's the end of chapter 1. And then chapter 2, world record for the fastest tryout ever. At first, I watched through the gate. I was going to keep moving, but then I saw there were other people down closer to the track, hanging out, watching the practice, like moms and stuff. So I joined them. Well, I didn't sit with them, because then that would have been weird. But I grabbed a seat on one of the other benches. My school didn't have a track team. Not that I would have tried out for it if it did. I was more into basketball. That was my sport, even though I'd never really played. Sometimes on my way home, I would stop by the court and see if I could get a pickup game. But no one ever picked me. Mainly because the old heads didn't like running with kids my age. But I always had this feeling that if I could just get on, I'd be the next LeBron. But I never wanted to be the next whoever the most famous runner is. I never even thought about it. I looked into the world records book and it says some dude named Usain Bolt is the fastest. But I never heard of him. My dad never watched running on TV. Are there even any famous runners? Like seriously? I've never heard of none, but judging from the way these kids were stretching and jumping around on the track, some of them probably had. "Okay, let's get some high knees," the coach was commanding. He was short and bald, but I could tell that this baldy didn't come from all of his hair falling out. He was one of those guys who shaved it. Actually, he was probably one of those guys who shaved all the hair on his face except his eyebrows, which wasn't a good look. He looked like a turtle with a chipped tooth, wearing a hoop earring and a black whistle around his neck. Up, up, up. There were boys and girls around my age, everybody dressed in shorts and t-shirts, holding their arms out in front of them, doing a jump march kind of thing, slapping their knees to their hands. "Come on, Sonny, it's only the second day of practice and you're already slacking," the coach barked at the tallest boy out there. He was holding a clipboard and it smacked against his leg. "Get him up." I sat with my feet spread apart so I could split the sunflower seed shells on the ground between them. The salt was making me so thirsty, but I just couldn't stop eating them. On the track, the high knee things were jumped by jumping jacks, and some warm-up laps around the track, which really seemed like a bad idea to me. I mean, why would you want to warm up with running? You'd be tired before it's even time to race. Duh. Then all the runners gathered around the turtle-faced coach. "Listen up," he said. If you're on this track, you've either been part of the defenders or you've been recruited to be part of the defenders. He was talking to them like they had just joined the army or something. I'm sure you all know what that means, but in case you don't, it means that you're part of one of the best youth teams in the city. We're the people the top high schools come to for talent. And if you go to a good high school and do well on a good team, guess what? You might even get to go to college for free. Don't nobody go to college for free to run no races, I thought to myself, spitting a shell out. I hate when they get stuck to your tongue and you gotta do that spit flick thing. So annoying. A weird looking kid, I can't really explain what he looked like. Well, let me try. You know how I said Mr. Charles looked like James Brown if James Brown were white? Well, this kid looked like a white boy if a white boy was black. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Let me start over. His skin was white, like the color white, and his hair was light brown, but his face looked like a black person's. Like God forgot to put the brown in him. Wait, is this like Mr. Charles or not? Forget it. Anyway, the boy raised his hand. Yes, Lou, the coach said. Is it true you ran in the Olympics, the kid asked. Is it true you didn't? The coach shot back, playing him out. The boy called Lou stood there like he just got slapped in the face by one of Charlotte Lee's rubber ducks. Like he didn't know what to do. He stammered, not sure what to say. Don't worry about what I've done. Worry about what you want to do. If you stick with me, I can get you there. The coach wiped spit from the corners of his mouth. Now, he said, looking at his roll sheet, let's see what we can do with you newbies. Lou, Patina, Sonny, on the line. The three newbies hustled down to the other end of the track. Lou, you're up first. 100-meter on the whistle, the coach directed. The weird-looking dude, Lou, was decked out in the flyest gear. Fresh Nike running shoes and a full-body skin-tight suit. Like a superhero. He wore a headband and a gold chain around his neck, and a diamond glinted in each ear. All the other runners stood off to the side as the coach put the whistle in his mouth. He held a stopwatch in his other hand. Ready, he said through his teeth. Then he came to the short squeak, "Ba-deep," and Lou took off. It was quick. I mean, this kid was really fast, and when he got to the end of the straightaway, a woman who was sitting on a bench on the other side of the track jumped up and squealed and clapped like this dude was some kind of celebrity or something. I was impressed. Not enough to clap, really. I was just happy something unboring was finally happening. But definitely impressed enough to stop sorting seeds in my mouth until he was done. Nice job, the coach said as Lou trotted back over to the side like a pro. Like this was no big deal, and he knew it. He glanced over at me. I spit shells on the ground. The coach also called out the time and scribbled it down, but I didn't catch it. Next up was the big goofy-looking kid the coach called Sonny. He was the one getting yelled at when I first got there about not kicking his legs up high enough in the warm-up. To be honest, he didn't look like he could even walk in a straight line, so I figured this was going to be pretty funny. Sonny got in position, closed his eyes, and took slow, deep breaths. Then the coach blew the whistle and off he went. I could tell he was pushing as hard as he could, but he just wasn't going nowhere. It was like he was running into the wind, even though it wasn't a windy day. Like his shoes weighed a ton of his bones were heavy or something. Nobody cheered for him, and a few of the other kids even laughed. We'll see who's laughing when we get to the mile, the coach barked at the sniggering runners. They all cut it out quick. Sonny loped back over and joined the group unfazed. He didn't even mind that he had run the slowest I'd ever seen anyone run. His sprint was like a jog. My mother probably could have smoked him. Mr. Charles might have even burned him up, and he's like 1,000 years old. The coach gave Sonny a nod, then turned to the next person, a girl. Next up, Patina. The Patina girl was tall, and sprang up and down on her toes, rolling her neck and shoulders, I guess to loosen up. Her hair was yanked back in a stubby ponytail with lots of frizz around the edges. When the coach blew the whistle, Patina broke out in a flash, zooming down the track definitely faster than Sonny, but not quite as fast as Lou. Still, I was impressed. I mean, I don't know a whole bunch of girls who can run that fast. Actually, I don't really know a whole bunch of girls who run at all. They always be trying to be cute in school, but I ain't mad about that. Y'all vets look better out there. Better look out for this girl. She runs the 800 like it's a skip down the block, the coach said, giving Patina a high five. If anybody complimented me like that, I'd be trying hard not to smile. But probably I would slip a little one in. But she, Patina, she just kept it cool and got back in line like it was nothing. I could tell she was no joke. After Lou, Sonny, and Patina ran, the coach told all the other runners, the vets, to line up and show the newbies how it was done. So on it went, the whistle blowing one by one, boys and girls on the line, sprinting down the straightaway, each of their times being recorded. Some were faster than others. Actually, most of the vets were pretty fast, but nobody was faster than the pretty boy Lou. Nobody. And the coach kept saying stuff like, Lou's still the one to beat, which was kind of pissing me off because, I don't know, it just made me think that this kid Brandon at school, who always picked on me. Not even just me though, he picked on a lot of people, and didn't nobody ever do nothing about it. They just said stupid stuff like, can't nobody beat him. Same kind of rah-rah this bowling ball head coach was kicking about this kid Lou. It's just, ugh. I mean, he was fast, but honestly, he wasn't even that fast. When everyone had taken a turn, the coach started over and gave everybody a chance to give it another go to see if they could beat their first time. So Lou was up for another go. He did that same cocky swagger thing over to the starting line. Did a few stretches, some jumps, and the lady on the other side of the track screamed again. The boy was just getting loose, and she was going off like he was doing something. The people around her looked at her like she was crazy, obviously annoyed. All of his teammates looked on. Some of them seemed to be bubbling with anticipation to see the mighty Lou run again. Others looked over it. That's probably how I looked. That's definitely how I felt. Over Lou, over Brandon, and over anybody who thought they were unbeatable. Not to mention, I was all out of sunflower seeds, so I had nothing to hold me back from getting up and showing him that he really wasn't all that, and that I ain't never had a running lesson in my whole life, and I could keep up with him, if not beat him. So I stepped over all the sunflower seed shells that had piled up between my feet like a mountain of dead flies, and walked, not on the track, but just beside it, on the grass. I lined up with Lou, who had now dropped into his on-your-mark stance. I didn't need to do all that. I just needed to roll up my jeans and tuck my laces into my high tops, and I was good to go. Coach Turtleface noticed me and called out, Kid, what are you doing? Tryouts were last week. I didn't say nothing, and the coach followed up with, This is a private practice. I still didn't respond, and just started scrunching my sleeves of my t-shirt up to my shoulders. Did you hear me? The coach now asked, a little louder this time. He started walking toward me. The other kids were just looking at me like most kids did. Like I was something else. Like I wasn't one of them. But whatever. Do you not understand what private means? The coach jeered. I thought of a funny comeback, but I kept it to myself. Yeah, man. The track is for runners, not people who want to pretend like they're runners, Lou jabbed, standing up straight. He looked me up and down, then flashed an arrogant grin. Just blow the whistle, I finally called back to the coach. He stopped in his tracks and glared. Then he looked at Lou before continuing in my direction. He pointed his clipboard at me. Listen, you get one run, hear me? After this, I don't want to see you around here no more, he threatened. This is serious business, you understand? I gave him the whatever face and nodded. He pointed his stupid clipboard at me again, like I was scared of that. Please. Then as the coach headed back to the finish line, Lou shook his head at me and growled. Hope you ready to get smoked. This time I said it. Whatever. And gave him my best ice roll to make sure he knew he didn't scare me. And he didn't. We weren't just running, not fighting. So why should I be frightened by some milk-faced running boy? Now back at the other end of the track, the coach yelled out, On your mark. Luke dropped down on all fours again. I just put my right foot forward. Get set. Lou put his butt in the air. I leaned in. Then, I wish I could tell you what I was thinking, but I can't. I probably was thinking nothing. Just moving. Man, were my legs going. I pumped and pushed, my ankles loose and wobbly in my sneakers, my jeans stiff and hot, the whole time seeing Lou out of the corner of my eye like a white blur. Then it was over, and everybody watching, all the other runners clapped and hooted, pointing at us both. Some had their mouths open, others just looked confused. The lady on the other side of the track, not a peep, but all the people around her were staring and cheering. Lou walked in circles with his hand on his head, trying to catch his breath, panting, wheezing out, Who won? Who won, coach? I don't know, son. It was pretty close. The coach said it like the words were sour in his mouth. I walked back over to my bench, grabbed my backpack, and to keep my part of the deal, headed out. I made my point, and it wasn't like I wanted to be part of the little club. I just needed everybody to know that the fancy white-black boy wasn't all that. Kid. I could hear the coach's footsteps coming behind me. I was still trying to get my heart to stop tripping and my lungs to start working again. Kid, wait. Wait, he said, running up beside me. He was wearing those sweatpants, the swishy kind that made every sound like paper crumpling. Who you run for, he asked. What? Who did I run for? What kind of question was that? I run for me. Who else? I replied. I stopped walking. No. I mean, what team? No team. I see. He glanced over at the track. So then, who trained you? Somebody had to train you to be so fast. Nobody. I just know how to run. You just know how to run, he repeated under his breath, followed up by, yes. Yes, you do. Also breath talk. Look, I don't know you. What's your name? Castle Cranshaw, I said, then quickly clarified. But everybody calls me Ghost. By everybody, I meant nobody except me. That was my self-given nickname. Well, halfway self-given. The night me and Ma busted into Mr. Charles's store, Mr. Charles looked at us like he was looking at two ghosts, like he didn't recognize us, probably because of how scared we both must have looked. So I just started calling myself that. Plus, it wasn't like the only time somebody had looked at me that way. As a matter of fact, this man, the coach, was looking at me the same exact way as Mr. Charles did that night, stunned. And I couldn't tell if it was because my real name was Castle or because of my nickname. Okay, Ghost, I'm Coach Brody. We did a proper handshake. Listen, like I said, I don't know you, obviously, but I know you got something special. At least I think you do. So, you want to join the Defenders and run with us? I didn't even think about it. Nope. Just like that. Nope. Judging by the look on Coach's face, I could tell nobody said no to running on his team, ever. What do you mean, nope? Why not? All the other runners on the track were cracking jokes and playing around. Everybody but Lou. He was getting back on the line down on his knees like he was getting ready to take off again. Because my sport is basketball. You play ball, he asked, like he didn't believe it. Like I didn't look like I could hoop. Yep. For who? Why do you keep asking me who I do things for, I snapped. Mainly because I didn't play ball for nobody. Not yet, at least. But it was still in my plans. Plus, who was he to be all in my business anyway? I didn't even know him, and he didn't know me. Look, even if I wanted to join your team, I continued, I would have had to ask my mom first, and she's probably going to say no, so let me ask her, he cut in. Why you care? It's just running, I said. Is that what you think? Coach narrowed his eyes. That this is just running? Yeah. I mean, what else is there? Ready, set, go. Run. The end, I said like a robot. Coach let out a hearty laugh, the kind that sounds fake. Nobody really laughs that hard and that loud without bending over like it hurts. We'll get to that, Coach said, cutting his laugh off instantly. Like I said, fake. For now, let's focus on the task at hand. If your mom says it's cool, will you join? Man, I told you I play ball. Coach sized me up, biting down on his bottom lip. Okay, I'll tell you what. Basketball is your sport? Cool. But if you want to be a better ball player, join this team and you'll be faster and stronger than anyone on the court. Matter of fact, your legs will be so strong, you'll be dunking on people by next year. You think I'm stupid? I looked at him sideways. Ain't no way I could be dunking in a year. I've never even heard of no 8th graders that can dunk. Depends on what you say next. If you don't let me ask your mom about joining, Coach was looking at me like he was dead serious. Like he really thought running could help my hops and get me dunking by next year. Which, if that did happen, I would go right down to the court with Sicko and then demand to play. I kept checking his face for a sign he was lying. A sign that would have been easy to see because he didn't have any hair to disguise it. But there was no sign. No lie. Man, I'm telling you, she ain't gonna say yes. Good enough, Coach nodded, a sure smirk on his face. Practice is almost over. Might as well stay, and then I'll drop you off at home. I'll talk to her then. Cool? Not cool. Not really. I mean, track? And who was this man? I've seen those weird shows where psychos pose like coaches and stuff, and then you get caught up. And the next thing you know, my mother's in jail too for handling this dude. I didn't trust him. But on the other hand, I didn't really have anything else to do, or anywhere else to be, so I figured it was worth scoping him out and seeing how he acted around all the other kids and their parents. I mean, I could always use the ride home, but I ain't no fool. After practice was done, everybody met up with the people waiting for them, family and friends or whatever. Coach spent a lot of time talking to moms and dads, mostly moms, especially of the vets. They all acted like they really, really knew each other, like family, hugs and all that. And that made me feel a little better about him, because moms don't trust nobody around their kids, so I agreed on the ride. Coach and I walked to his car, which I was surprised to see was a cab. You stole a cab? I asked, while he cleaned a bunch of stuff off the seat. Food bags, shoes, water bottles, sports drinks. The front of the car was a mess. He threw everything in the back. No, Coach said, brushing crumbs on the floor so I could finally get in. What makes you think that? Because you a coach, I said, holding my backpack in my lap. So how you get one? I coach because I love it, but it doesn't pay the rent. Being a cab driver does. He started the car. Then why would you love coaching? Seems like if being a cabbie gets you paid, then that would be what you love. I explained, which seemed obvious, looking out the window. Coach looked out at the parking space. Wait, I said. You're not going to make me pay for this ride home, are you? Because if you are, you can just let me out and I'll walk. Why would I make... Coach started, then stopped. Then he sighed. Just tell me where you live. Where I live. Where I live. When anyone ever asks me about where I live, I get weird because people always treat you funny when they find out you stay in a certain kind of neighborhood. But I was used to people treating me funny. When your clothes are 2 sizes too big, and you got on no-name sneakers, and your mother cuts your hair, and you look like mother cuts your hair, you get used to people treating you funny. So what's one more person? Glass Manor, I said. You know where that's at? Coach didn't blink. Yeah, I know where that is. We didn't really stay too much in the car, just zipped from one side of the neighborhood to the other, from the good side to the other side. It was my first time ever in a cab. I was used to walking everywhere, unless I was going somewhere with my mom. Then it was on the bus. Coach talked on the phone most of the trip, judging by what he was saying, what time he'd be home, checking to see if somebody named Tyrone had eaten yet, asking what was for dinner. Made me think that he was talking to his wife. I wonder what she looked like. Probably not too hot, since she married a man who looked like a chip-toothed turtle. Coach was saying something about gym shoes to the maybe wife on his phone, when I noticed a woman walking in white scrubs, white sneakers, carrying a black leather purse big enough to fit the whole world in it, and in her hair was cut like a boy's. I tapped Coach on the arm and told him to pull the cab over. Hold on, he said to the person on the phone, then to me. What? Pull over, I repeated. That's my mother. Coach pulled to the side of the street and I rolled down the window. Ma, I called out, waving to her. She looked, then looked again, trying to make sure I was who she thought I was. Cass, she said, approaching the cab. What are you doing in a cab? Matter of fact, what are you doing in the front seat of a cab? No, answer the first question. What are you doing in a cab? Hop in, I said. No, you hop out, she said. Ma. Ma'am. Coach leaned over so she could see him. It's fine. Hop in. I'm just giving him a ride home. Then he added, on the house. Coach swiped everything on the back seat to one side as I reached back and opened the door. My mother stood out of the car for what seemed like minutes before deciding to climb in. And even after she did, she kept the door open, one foot still on the sidewalk, so she could jump back out if she needed to. Her bag, which I knew was full of styrofoam containers of chicken and gravy, or whatever gross but free meal we were going to have for dinner, crunched on the seat beside her as she finally pulled her legs in and closed the door. How was work? I asked as Coach pulled back into the street. Cass, don't how was work me. Why are you in a cab? And excuse me, sir, no offense, but who are you? She asked. Told you. Moms don't trust nobody around their kids. Coach adjusted the rear view mirror so he could see my mother in the back. I'm Coach Brody, but everybody calls me Coach. I run the Defenders City track team. Uh-huh, and? And your son came and, sat in on my practice today. Coach threw a quick glance at me. Did you know he could run? Did I know he could run? She was sitting directly beside me, but I could feel the heat of her eyes burning through the headrest, scorching the back of my neck. Yeah, he can run. Like, really run. My mother just sort of grunted. I knew better than to say anything, or even to turn around and look back at her. I just said to Coach, make this left, when we got close to my street. Coach made the left and then continued. And I think he's got potential. With the proper coaching, he could be a serious problem. I felt like I'd seen this in every single sports movie I've ever watched. All of them. Man, your son has potential. If this went like the movies, I was either going to score the game-winning touchdown, which is impossible in track, or die. Sir, I appreciate that, but let me tell you something. Cass already is a serious problem, my mom explained, and right now he needs to focus on school, not sports. Right here, I murmured to let Coach know where to stop and let us out. I figured there was no reason to drag out the conversation. It went exactly like I thought it would. So I wasn't really even mad about it. He cut his blinker on, pulled over, and put the car in park. Listen, Coach turned around to look at my mother in the face. I totally get that, but what if I made you a deal? He went on. If he messes up in school, one time, he's off the team. 1 time, I squawked. 1 time. Coach held his hand out to my mother. I kept my eyes forward until I heard her exhale the breath of a long day. You're gonna get him home every day, she asked. Yes. What about his homework? It'll be done. He sounded pretty confident for not even knowing me like that. Coach gave us both one of his cards. I put mine in my backpack while Ma gazed at hers, making sure everything was legit. Then she let out another big sigh, this time probably the breath of a worried mom. Well, at least I'll know where he'll be after school, she gave in. And that was it. Just like that. For the first time in my whole life, I was on a team. Alright, so that's the end of the first 2 chapters. It's absolutely fantastic. Right after I finished those first 2 chapters, I knew that this was a book that I was going to absolutely love. And I read this in one sitting, so I finished it in one day, which is totally doable with a book just under 200 pages. But the rest of the story is really good. It really does, because I'm a teacher, capture some of the struggles that I know that my students have had, and especially, like I said, this is a book of diversity to add to your library and your read. So it's a good way of getting a different perspective on somebody else's life. This is technically realistic fiction, so something that could actually happen in real life but is a fictional story, probably based on the author's own experiences. So I highly, highly recommend this book, Ghost. Like I said, it is part of a 4-book series called the Track series, and the second book is called Patina. So it's about the girl Patina that he was introduced to on the track team. And you all get to learn about like their crazy, crazy, crazy stories, but how this track team sort of pulls them all together, gives them a real sense of family, and hopefully leads them on a good path for their future. So that's why I really, really like this book and recommend this book and the series. One more time, this is Ghost by Jason Reynolds. This is my last one for this week, so then I will see you guys again next week with one of these books. Probably most likely it'll either be Amal Unbound or Ghost Boys, just because they're a little bit smaller, but I also have some of these other books that I might read. So if you have a particular one that you are interested in the most, let me know in the comments which one that you think you'd be most interested in seeing next, and then I will be sure to put that towards the front of my list. Some of those books that I recommend, I'll end up reading them and then giving reviews on my page instead of like reading them out loud, because some of them have like a little bit too much language for me to kind of like glaze over in a reading of the chapters. So I'll just have to read them and then do reviews of them to kind of get around that, but still get them out there as recommendations. So yeah, let me know. Thank you for watching this. If you've been following along, keep staying on my diversity books journey, because it's really important to include some of those books in our arsenals so that we can learn more about other viewpoints, which is always my goal with my students, is to learn more about the world around them and become better leaders for the future. Alright, thanks for watching. Make sure to share this video as well so other people can see these. Have a great weekend. See you next time. Bye.